They're not ready for who you're about to become. You don't warn people when you're about to rise. You disappear, then return as the lesson they never saw coming. That's the truth, my friends, and it's time you let that sink in. You don't owe anyone a warning. Not the ones who rejected you, ignored you, ghosted you, or played you like a toy they only touched when they were bored. You don't explain yourself to people who once had full access to you and treated your heart like trash. This isn't about healing quietly in the corner. This is about resurrecting, like a storm they didn't expect, a version of you they thought would stay broken forever. Let's be honest, they thought you'd stay stuck. They thought you'd keep chasing, keep checking your phone like a beggar waiting for breadcrumbs. They thought you'd keep sending paragraphs while they sent silence. You were the one showing up with loyalty, with consistency, with heart, and they walked away like they were the victim. They dismissed you like garbage, then waited to see if you'd crawl back just to feel chosen again. But folks, not this time, not anymore. Imagine this. You hand someone gold, real gold. You shaped it, polished it, offered it with your full heart. And they spit on it, tossed it like it was nothing. Now tell me, do you go back and beg them to pick it up? Or do you become someone they'll never hold again? You see, they didn't reject you because you were too much. They rejected you because they were too small, too weak to handle what was real, too lazy to match your effort, too scared to be seen without a mask. So they chose silence, they chose confusion, they chose lies, and now they hide behind fake peace, empty posts, and that same cold smile you used to love. But here's the real plot twist. They're not fine, they're haunted. And you're about to become the echo they can't run from. My friends, stop begging to be seen. You are not a doormat. You are not a backup plan. You are not someone's emotional convenience store they walk into only when they're empty. You are the one who gave too much to someone who couldn't even handle a conversation. And now it's your turn to disappear, not out of pain, out of power. This isn't a healing guide. This is a strategic reset. 7 days, 7 shifts, 7 reasons they'll never recover from losing you. Because every day from now on, you're taking your power back without sending a single word. Every second you stay silent, they'll feel the weight of your absence like bricks on their chest. This isn't revenge. This is revelation. You're not trying to hurt them. You're just finally choosing yourself. And that's the one move they never expected. So if you've ever cried yourself to sleep thinking, why wasn't I enough? Let me tell you, you were more than enough. You were everything they didn't value when they had the chance. But now, you're becoming unavailable. You're becoming unrecognizable, and one day soon, when they scroll through your old messages, your old photos, your old memories, they'll realize they lost something sacred, and they can't message back. Because the door, it's gone. The access, deleted. The version of you who waited, buried. Type this in the comments right now. They'll regret my silence. Write it, lock it in, burn it into your identity. Press that like button if you're ready to start your 7-day Stoic reset. Subscribe if you're done shrinking for people who threw away gold. And stay with me, because what's coming next, it's the first day of your comeback. And they're not ready. Day 1. Cut the noise. They lost the right to know you. You can't heal where you were humiliated. Let that sink in, not whispered, not softened. Let it hit your chest like it was meant to. Because too many of you are still sitting in the same emotional landfill where they tossed you like trash and calling it love. You're still hoping to be seen in the same place you were made invisible. Still refreshing their profile, still checking your phone like it's going to save you. My friend, how can you expect to feel peace in the same war zone where your worth was turned into a doormat? Day 1 starts now. I don't care how long it's been. 2 days, 2 months, 2 years. It doesn't matter. The reset begins the moment you stop waiting to be chosen by someone who already showed you how replaceable they believed you were. And if you're still holding on to the idea that they might come back with clarity, with an apology, with some big emotional reveal, let me break that lie for you right now. They're not coming. Not with truth. Not with love. Not with healing. Because the ones who ghost, ignore, cheat, manipulate, they don't come back to fix what they broke. They come back to make sure you're still broken. That's why silence is the weapon now, and not the kind that punishes, but the kind that protects, the kind that draws a line between the person you were when you begged for their attention, and the version of you that doesn't explain, doesn't chase, doesn't wait anymore. Today you cut the noise, block them, mute them, delete them. Not because you hate them, but because you love your peace more than you love illusions. Picture this. You're a vault, a fortress, and for too long you left the door wide open for someone who didn't even wipe their feet before walking into your soul. They tracked dirt into your mind, left fingerprints on your insecurities, slammed the door behind them and walked away like nothing happened. And you left that door open, just in case they came back. But today, that door closes permanently. And yes, it will feel scary. Your mind will scream questions like, what if they come back and I'm not there? Or what if cutting them off makes me the bad one? But here's the truth, and I need you to hear this with your whole chest. You're not abandoning love. You're abandoning self-neglect. They humiliated you, with silence, with half-effort, with breadcrumb texts that only came when they were bored, with public posts showing off their fake happiness while you sat in the shadows, blaming yourself for not being enough. You gave loyalty to someone who treated you like a spare part, a backup plan, an emotional vending machine they came to when they wanted comfort, but never commitment. And still, some of you have the audacity to check if they viewed your story, still wondering if they miss you, still breaking your own heart with false hope. My friend, how dare you forget your worth just because they couldn't see it? You were gold, you were consistency, you were love with both hands open, and they treated you like noise they could mute, like trash they could take out when it got inconvenient. But now, you're going silent. Not out of sadness, but strategy. Because silence isn't weakness, it's the loudest boundary you'll ever set. When they don't hear from you, not today, not tomorrow, not ever, that's when the panic begins. Because they were banking on you reaching out first. They were counting on your emotions to keep the door open. But when you go quiet, when you disappear from their feed, from their inbox, from their life, their world doesn't get peaceful, it gets louder. The thoughts, the guilt, the regret, and they'll pretend they don't feel it, sure. But that's all it is, pretending. They lost the right to know you, to see you, to access your energy, your light, your presence. Because people who hurt you without apology, who left you without explanation, who took you for granted while you were giving them everything, they don't deserve a front row seat to your healing. They don't get updates on a life they tried to destroy. They don't get to watch you rise after they buried you. This is your moment, your day one, your line in the sand. Because let me tell you what silence really is. It's clarity, it's discipline, it's self-respect in its purest form. It says, you no longer get to rent space in my mind. You no longer get to pull strings on my peace. You no longer get to sit at my table when you brought nothing but appetite and empty hands. You were the constant, the anchor, the one who showed up, and they still chose chaos over commitment. So now, you choose peace over pain, silence over desperation, distance over performance. So let this be the beginning they didn't see coming. Let this silence be the thing they hear louder than any message. Let every unanswered text remind them that your energy is no longer free. You're not available to be hurt again. You're not available to be half-loved. You're done. Type this in the comments right now. My silence is now sacred. Write it like a promise. Say it like a vow. Burn it into your identity. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that the days of waiting, begging, wondering are over. Press the like button if you're done being the doormat in someone else's story. Subscribe if you're ready to disappear and return as the lesson. And stay with me, because tomorrow we're going even colder. Day 2. Stop explaining. Start evolving. You don't owe closure to someone who broke you open. Let that echo in your chest for a moment. You owe nothing, nothing to the one who cracked your heart open and walked away like your pain was an inconvenience. Yet here you are, still thinking about sending one last text, still crafting the perfect paragraph in your head, still wondering if maybe, just maybe, a soft message will make them understand what they never cared to ask. Stop. Day 2 is not about trying to be understood. It's about becoming unavailable to the cycle. No more explaining, no more over-justifying, no more typing and deleting. Because the truth is, every time you try to explain yourself to someone who already made the decision to misunderstand you, you give away your power. Every time you write another paragraph to someone who read your heart like it was a grocery list, you shrink, you minimize, you beg without saying the word, please. My friends, how many times have you stared at your screen thinking maybe this time they'll read it differently? Maybe this time they'll respond. Maybe this time your vulnerability will wake them up. But let's break the lie. If they cared, you wouldn't have to explain a damn thing. They saw your effort. They felt your love. They just didn't value it. Not because it wasn't real, but because it forced them to face something they weren't ready for: truth. See, real love exposes people. It makes them choose between healing or running. And they ran. So now you stop explaining, because every explanation is a rope, and they've already used it to pull you back into confusion. You're not a book they get to skim when they're bored. You're not a page they get to reread only when the world gets quiet. You're not a story that begs for a happy ending from someone who didn't even read the chapters properly. You, my friend, are a locked vault now. No passcode, no hints, no entry, and the ones who broke you don't get a map to your recovery. It will be hard. Of course it will. Silence always is. For the one who gave everything. You'll feel it in your chest, that ache, that pull, that lie whispering, just tell them how you feel one last time. But you've told them over and over, in your words, in your actions, in your patience. And what did they give in return? Distance, games, confusion, manipulation dressed up as needing space. Let them wonder. Let them sit in the silence they once weaponized, because every day you say nothing, their mind screams louder. Did you block them? Did you move on? Are you seeing someone else? Why did they lose access to the version of you that used to beg for attention? They won't say it, but they'll feel it. Because silence isn't weakness, it's evolution. You're not chasing peace anymore. You're becoming it. Every second you don't reach out, don't post that emotional story, don't send that voice note, they feel your transformation. And the worst part for them, they can't stop it. They can't undo what they've done. They can't unburn the bridge. They're now locked out of the very heart they used to ignore. And you rise, quietly, powerfully, with no announcement. Let me scold you, gently but firmly. How long are you going to keep begging to be seen by someone who wore blindfolds when you were shining the brightest? How long will you keep trying to teach a person to value gold while they're still entertained by glitter? You are not the one who needs to make them understand. That's not your job. Your job now is to evolve so ruthlessly that even your memories look at you and say, "We don't recognize this version anymore." So stop explaining. You're done narrating your worth to people who treated your love like background noise. From now on, your silence will speak every word you ever wrote, Every paragraph you ever deleted, every "I miss you" you swallowed, and it will hit harder than any message ever could, because now they get to hear the echo of your absence. And that echo, it gets louder by the hour. So write this in the comments like you mean it. I'm not chasing peace. I'm becoming it. Let the world feel it. Let them feel it. Let you feel it. Press the like button if you're done explaining yourself to people who chose to stay confused. Subscribe if you're ready to evolve in silence, and let them regret every word you never send. And stay with me, because what's coming next, that's when you go cold, and they start to feel the winter you used to protect them from. Day 3. Go cold. Not because you're bitter, but because you're better. They thought your warmth was weakness. Now they'll learn what winter feels like. Let's get something straight, my friends. They didn't walk away because you were too cold. They walked away because you were too consistent, too loyal, too available. You showed up when everyone else disappeared. You stayed soft in a world that only taught you to be sharp. You poured love into someone who only brought cracks. And they looked at your warmth, not as a treasure, but as something they could step on, like a doormat, like an emotional heater they could plug into when life got cold and unplug when it got convenient. But today, day 3, you go cold. Not because you're angry, not because you're bitter, but because you're finally awake, because you're finally seeing that their silence was never strength. It was strategy. It was a cage they put you in, a mind game where every quiet second made you question yourself, where every delay in reply made you doubt your worth. And while they were out laughing, posting, pretending to glow up, you were curled up, rewinding old memories, thinking maybe it was all your fault. Enough. This is the part of your reset where you shut the emotional faucet off. No more going back to old messages, rereading them like sacred scrolls. No more zooming in on their photos, trying to read between the lines of captions they didn't write for you. No more watching their stories like a ghost hoping for validation. No. Today, you cut the cord. Because every time you re-engage, even silently, you keep the wound bleeding. Let me give you a metaphor. Imagine a fire you kept feeding, logs, warmth, fuel, love, and one day they left it, left you, and now they expect to return whenever they're cold and find it still burning, still warm, still loyal. But you? You're about to let that fire go out, and what comes next is not a spark. It's winter. Unforgiving, quiet, distant winter, because cold is what they earned. And here's what they never tell you. Going cold doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop performing. You stop handing out explanations, second chances, and endless grace to people who would rather throw your love away than grow up and match it. You're not bitter. You're clear. You're not rude. You're unavailable. You're not hurting them. You're protecting yourself. But yes, let's be honest, it'll feel unnatural at first, because you were the one who used to check their page, who memorized their replies, who kept track of every breadcrumb hoping it would lead to closure. So the silence you give now, it'll feel like punishment. But it's not. It's the medicine. It's the mirror. It's the quiet they handed you, being handed back with interest. You want to know what really messes with their head. It's not your absence. It's your unbothered energy. It's when you stop chasing, stop asking, stop trying. That's when they panic. Because suddenly they don't have control. Suddenly the person who would have forgiven them again and again is gone, cold, quiet, distant. And nothing scares someone with a fragile ego more than being locked out of the very warmth they never appreciated. Let me scold you a bit here. How long are you going to keep keeping yourself warm for someone who left you in emotional snow? How many more nights are you going to let yourself freeze while still carrying the memory of someone who never even brought you a blanket? You are not a backup heater. You are not emergency comfort. You are not seasonal love. So stop waiting to feel okay before you go cold. Go cold first, and the peace will follow. Because this isn't about revenge, it's about recognition. Recognition that your warmth is earned, not exploited. So from this day forward, your silence is no longer confusion, it's confirmation. Confirmation that you've seen enough, felt enough, given enough, and now you are done. You're not going cold out of pain, you're going cold from clarity. From the understanding that not everyone who misses your warmth deserves it again. So type this in the comments like you mean it. I go cold, not from pain, but from clarity. Write it, own it, let it echo in their silence and ring in your healing. Press that like button if you've ever been the one who stayed warm for too long. Subscribe if you're ready to freeze out anyone who only knew how to take without giving. And stay with me, because what's coming next? That's when your patterns shift. And when your patterns change, they don't just miss you, they mourn you. Day 4. Change the pattern. They won't know this version of you. They got used to your heartbreak. They won't survive your glow-up. Let's break the cycle today, my friends, because they don't miss you. They miss the old version of you, the one who broke first, replied fast, checked in even after being ignored, the one who apologized for having feelings, the one who sent long messages while they gave dry responses. They don't miss your soul. They miss the access, the pattern, the control. But day 4, this is the death of that version. You don't just go silent now, you go different. You do the exact opposite of what they expect, because patterns are powerful. And the moment you shift yours, you send a shockwave into their fake peace. Used to post sad songs, now you post nothing. Used to send that just checking on you message, now you disappear without a trace. Used to watch their stories first, now you don't even blink in their direction. You used to breathe desperation, now you exhale detachment. You don't even move the same. You don't even exist in the same emotional frequency anymore. And let me tell you this, when people can no longer predict you, they panic, because they relied on your reaction to fuel their ego. They counted on your softness to reset the cycle. But now, nothing. Stillness. Mystery. You're not angry. You're not loud. You've simply vanished into evolution. And that silence, that shift, it's chaos in their world. Let them stalk confusion. Let them overthink the new energy. Why didn't they reply? Why didn't they like my post? Why does their silence feel heavier now than their words ever did? That's what happens when the pattern changes. You become unreadable. And unreadable is unforgettable. And yes, your emotions will try to drag you back. Your old wounds will whisper, go back to the old pattern. It was safer. At least you knew what to expect. But safe isn't sacred. Predictable isn't powerful. And repeating the same behaviors, expecting change, that's the slowest way to stay stuck. Let me scold you with love. How long are you going to keep doing what they trained you to do? How long will you live in loops that only serve their comfort and your silence? You were not born to be someone's routine. You were born to evolve. So change the pattern. Let them face the unknown. Let them feel the absence of your emotional predictability. Because when your patterns stop chasing, that's when your power stops being optional and becomes untouchable. Type this in the comments right now. My patterns don't chase. They evolve. Write it like a new rule for your life. Let it be the code they'll never crack. Press the like button if you're done being predictable. Subscribe if you're rewriting your pattern and letting the silence confuse the hell out of them. And stay with me, because tomorrow, you don't just disappear. You become unavailable, emotionally, mentally, energetically. Day 5. Become unavailable, emotionally, mentally, energetically. You were once on call for their chaos. Now, you're out of reach. Day 5 is where the transformation starts to haunt them, because you're no longer just quiet, you're unavailable, not cold, not missing, not broken, just untouchable. The person who used to answer every call, reply to every late-night text, be there when they were bored, lonely, or in trouble, that version has retired. That emotional lifeline, cut. They used to treat you like emotional customer service. Press 1 for comfort, press 2 for validation, press 3 for a second chance. But now there's no number to dial, no reply, no emotional fix on demand. And that, my friend, is what finally gets to them. Not your silence, but the movement they can't reach. You're still alive, you're still rising, you're glowing, you're growing, you're posting. But it's different now. Not for attention, not for them, for you. They see you, but they can't access you. They feel the energy shift. You're not throwing hints. You're not half-liking their stories. You're not checking in from the sidelines, hoping to be seen. You're moving forward, and they're stuck, watching. That's the trigger. That's the torture. You were the anchor in their chaos, the calm in their storm, and they thought you'd always be there, on standby, on pause, on mute. But now you're gone, not physically, not completely, but emotionally unavailable. And that, my friends, hits harder than any revenge ever could. And yes, they'll pretend they don't notice. They'll post louder, smile wider, act unbothered. But make no mistake, the distance is slicing through their ego like a silent blade. Because once you stop being emotionally accessible, you stop being manipulatable. You take the power back. And now they're screaming in silence, because the one person who used to fold first has become a fortress. Let me scold you real quick. How many times did you drop everything to respond to someone who barely gave you effort? How many times did you stay emotionally wide open while they gave you the bare minimum? How long did you hold space for someone who treated your love like background noise? You were not a 24/7 emotional support line. You were a whole universe pretending to be a text message. So now, you're unavailable. Not to hurt them, but to honor yourself. You're not hiding. You're just no longer within reach of the same chaos that once drained you. And when they realize they can't touch you anymore, that's when they realize they never deserved you in the first place. Type this in the comments right now. I'm not hiding. I'm just no longer available to what drained me. Write it, claim it, show them, show yourself, show the world you're done being the emotional fallback plan. Press that like button if you're done giving access to people who only called when it served them. Subscribe if you're becoming untouchable, and stay with me, because tomorrow your silence becomes more than distance. It becomes the mirror they can't look away from. Day 6. Let them sit in their own silence. Every day they don't hear from you is another day they hear themselves. Let that one sink in deep, my friends, because this is where the tables turn. This is the day your silence becomes their mirror. Not because you said anything, but because you didn't. Not because you blocked them, but because you didn't reach out. Not because you exploded, but because you stayed calm, collected, quiet. That's the part they didn't see coming, the version of you that doesn't flinch anymore. They thought you'd break first. They thought you'd beg again. They thought the silence would crush you. They thought you'd fold like you used to. But here you are, not flinching, not reacting, just rising. And now they're the ones living in the echo chamber they built. And that echo, it's getting louder. They thought silence would protect them from your anger, your truth, your disappointment. But what they didn't expect is your peace. Because silence from someone who used to over-explain, over-apologize, over-care, that's not absence. That's a message. That's a funeral for the version of you they used to control. Imagine this. You used to be their emotional cushion, their secret safe zone, the place they could run to whenever the world got cold. But now Now they sit in their own silence, and they hate it. Not because it's empty, but because it's honest. Because in that quiet, they finally feel the absence of your energy, the void, the collapse. You used to be the distraction from their guilt. Now they're forced to face it, alone. And here's the harsh truth. They didn't want you to move on. They just wanted you to stay hurt, stuck, wondering. But you're not stuck anymore. You've evolved past the need for closure, conversation, or clarity. You're not sitting in your pain anymore. They are. Because silence isn't weakness. Silence is a sentence. And every second you don't speak, they hear it. In the moments they try to sleep, in the songs that still sound like you, in the photos they scroll through but don't dare like, in the conversations where they almost bring up your name but can't say it out loud. Let me ask you, how many times did you sit in silence, hurting while they were pretending everything was fine? Now the roles have reversed, but this time you're not pretending. You're peaceful, and they're the one overthinking, overanalyzing, overcompensating. That's karma. That's clarity. Let me scold you for one last thing. Stop thinking your silence is wasted. Just because you can't see their regret doesn't mean they're not living in it. Guilt doesn't always post online. It lives in quiet panic. And every day they don't hear from you, it's another day they lose the illusion of control. So from now on, don't break the silence. Don't feed the pattern. Don't go back. Let them sit in the silence they thought would destroy you, and watch how it starts to destroy them. Type this in the comments like a vow. Their silence used to hurt me. Now it hurts them. Say it with your chest. Say it for every silent night they made you question yourself. Press that like button if you've turned your silence into strength. Subscribe if you're done being the one who breaks first. And stay with me, because tomorrow is the day regret hits them harder than ever, and the silence becomes their collapse. Day 7. Return without warning as the lesson. You were not the punishment, you were the test, and they failed. This is it, my friends. Day 7. The final shift. The final silence. The day you stop waiting for closure and start becoming the consequence. Because they thought walking away from you would be easy. They thought you'd stay shattered. They thought you'd stay quiet, small, broken, forever trying to prove your worth to someone who never deserved to hold it. But they didn't realize something dangerous was growing in that silence. You, the real you. And now you return, not with an explanation, not with a message, not with a desperate attempt to be understood. You return without warning, as the lesson they never saw coming, the one they ignored, the one they toyed with, the one they dismissed. You come back not for revenge, but as a walking mirror that reflects everything they lost and can never touch again. You don't text, you don't chase, you don't ask how they've been. You exist, loudly, powerfully, quietly. You show up in the world healed, whole, and unavailable. That's the real revenge. That's the regret they weren't prepared for. You let them watch from a distance as you become the version of yourself that no longer needs their validation. They'll see you in places they never imagined, smiling without pretending, glowing without begging, thriving without needing a single word from them. And the most brutal part, they'll realize they trained you to become this. With every cold shoulder, every ignored message, every time they made you feel like you weren't enough, they built the storm that now leaves them in ruins. You were never the punishment. You were the final exam the universe gave them. You were the chance to step up, to meet someone real, and they failed. Not because you weren't lovable, but because they weren't ready for love that deep, that honest, that raw. And now they don't get to retake the test. You're gone, not missing, not hiding, but untouchable. Let me scold you gently. Stop thinking they'll ever come back with the truth. They won't. Not because they don't feel it, but because they can't face it. Pride is a prison. And the cost of staying silent, pretending, playing games, is that they now get to live in a world where you've moved on without them. And trust me, that realization, it's the sentence they never recover from. Let them feel it. Let them scroll in silence. Let them wonder how they lost something so rare, and when they finally understand what they threw away, you'll be long gone, healed, glowing, living. Not to prove a point, but because you remembered your worth. So type this in the comments right now, like you mean it. I became the version of me they never expected, because I stopped being the version they took for granted. Let them feel the shift. Let yourself feel the truth. Press the like button if you're done being the test they failed. Subscribe if you've finally become the lesson they'll never stop remembering. Day 8. Leave the door burned behind you. Some doors don't need to be closed quietly. Some need to be burned so you never walk back through them again. Day 8 is not just the final chapter. It's the fire that seals it shut. This isn't about blocking them one more time. This is about blocking off the version of you that kept reopening the door. The version that kept thinking, maybe if I just explain it better, maybe if I just wait longer, maybe they'll change. No, my friend, that version is done. That door, it doesn't just need to be shut, it needs to be burned. Because if you leave it cracked, even slightly, your mind will wander back through it when you're lonely. Your heart will reach for it when the nights get quiet. You'll start replaying old laughs like lullabies, forgetting the chaos that came after every smile. You'll start rewriting the story in your head, making it softer than it ever was. That's how the cycle traps you again, not through them, but through memory. And today, that ends. Let the door burn. Let the smoke rise. Let the ashes remind you of everything you survived, because you were not just hurt by them, you were hurt by your own hope. The hope that they would one day become who you needed. The hope that they would see your worth. But the truth is, if they were capable of treating you right, they would have never made you feel like you had to earn the bare minimum. So now, this is about self-loyalty. Because when you let the door burn, you're not being cruel, you're being clear. You're saying, I'm not giving myself false options anymore. You're saying, I'm not keeping space for people who didn't keep space for me. And yes, you might miss them, but missing someone isn't a reason to return. Growth will always feel lonely at first, because your past was full of noise, but what's ahead of you is peace, real peace. The kind that doesn't depend on texts, attention, or crumbs. The kind that sits silently beside you and says, you're finally free. Let me scold you one last time, because you need to hear it. Stop being sentimental about a door that led you straight into hell. Stop replaying the highlight reel while ignoring the damage. You weren't crazy. You weren't dramatic. You were just loyal in a place that was never safe. So today, you don't just move on, you burn it down. No more checking, no more wondering, no more softness toward the past. You're walking forward, and nothing from back there gets to follow. Type this in the comments right now. I burned the door. I won't go back. Let it be your final vow. Show them, show yourself. Show the world that this story has no sequel. And that, my friends, is your 8-day Stoic reset. You don't announce your comeback. You become it. Quietly, powerfully. By the time they realize what they lost, you're already gone. Evolved into someone they'll never access again. So take this moment, right now, and make it real. Comment below. Day 1 starts now. They don't get access to this version of me. Let it be your vow, your identity shift. Press the like button if this reset spoke to your soul. Subscribe if you're done with revenge and ready for results. And share this with someone who needs the fire to finally close the door.